Senegal was on the floor. They were struggling. Nobody was coming to their aid. So the uneven levels at which we play, and because we sell basically all our fish into the EU market. And so EU says, I don't like this, and I flash the yellow card.
Yes.
And this is how what I want you to do before I remove the yellow card.
Yeah.
It may not necessarily be in our interest, but because we need to have our market access, we probably need to comply. The major challenge with our fisheries sector today is not really the art of fishing, because we have reduced the trawl numbers from about 100 to 72 to now just around 40, 50. We have revised and reviewed the gears that they use, and so we now have new gear regime for them that has a lower opening from about 25 to about 10 meters. That has reduced the width of the opening. They've taken out a lot of things to make it easier for small pelagic to move out and not get entrapped in it. So we keep increasing the regulation and squeezing the trawl sector and the industrial sector. But environmental and climatic factors are major. Look, fishermen are fishing every day because the alternative, which was farming, is no longer available because all the farmlands have been taken away. Inland contribution to our fishery is gone because we have allowed miners and galamsey operators to destroy all our inland water bodies. We are just talking about catfish. It would have been a major alternative if all our inland water bodies are functioning or are in good state. Now, you're talking about aquaculture. You can't do aquaculture when you don't have water bodies. And that's why at some point you need to look at the cross-cutting issues. Because somebody is responsible for the management of the inland or freshwater body, and that's Water Resources Commission. They make decisions. Somebody is responsible for the environmental issues around it, EPA. The Fisheries Commission's responsibility is just about fishing. Probably 93 gives a leeway that any act that will have deleterious impact on the fisheries water of Ghana needs to have a fisheries impact assessment. But the person needs to go first to Fisheries Commission and say, this is what I'm going to do. And probably it may delete the fisheries in the system. So I want to have a fisheries impact assessment. Even if you go there, they don't have a guideline. So you need to now think about how to manage these institutions so that Water Resource Commission, for instance, will know that you need the water body to be able to even think about the aquaculture that you are talking about. And some of us have raised the argument, is it possible to start ring fencing some of the water bodies we think are in good condition so that we don't allow people to start having galamsey or mining or any other thing that will destroy the quality of those water bodies. If you travel abroad, shell fishery is a major industry. Shell fisheries have high values, but nobody would want to eat from this kind of water bodies that we have when you go into shellfish production. We saw one shellfish culture site in Rhode Island. It was huge. And people love it because they are filter eaters. They clean the waters also for the system. But when you are polluting all your water bodies, nobody would want to eat your shellfish. So you cannot even export them. But shellfish is of high value. So you probably may have to start looking at how to close these water bodies. And you see, people are changing their taste. You say people are eating catfish now. People are moving from. Once you package it well, people will begin to take it. So you create alternative for the fishermen. And when you are talking about coastal fisheries, the women in the area would easily be able to go and pick shellfish, and then they would be able to prepare them for the market. So it means that they will have some livelihood activity that they could depend on. So we have a big challenge when it comes to exactly what we are doing in terms of what we have as a regulation and what we need to do And because we are not able to manage that well, we have created that lacuna, which allows the EU or the US to come and say, well, we will do it for you.
Right.
And when we will do it for you with our money, then we'll do it at our own terms.
Absolutely.
And if you are not able to meet their terms, then they say, well, you are trading with us, and we have sanctions, because our people cannot consume fish that were illegally caught.
Absolutely.
I heard His Excellency the President, when he was making the speech, say, oh, cycle. You see, when we deal with an issue, we don't celebrate the success. Because nobody is doing cycle today. So probably if the person was writing the His Excellency's speech is aware that nobody is engaging in cycle today, may rather have the President praise the success we have chalked in that direction. But once the His Excellency President says, oh, let's deal with cycle, it becomes a major statement that His Excellency has made. And somebody somewhere will say, well, Ghana is still doing cycle, and the President has said it. So let's hold their neck for cycle. Because one of the key reasons we have a yellow card is because we were cited for doing cycle.
Right.
And it's not somebody's law, it's our own law that says that you cannot do transshipment at sea.
The Minister for Fisheries and Aquacultural Development is on record recently to have said that pretty shortly or very soon the EU has promised to remove that yellow card from us. I would want, when I come back, I would want to find out from you whether you think that it's an indication that we are beginning to do things right. But for now, we're going for a break. This is Iron Port here on Metropolitan Television, and tonight we're taking a look at the regulatory and management regime of Ghana's fisheries sector. And with us in the studios doing the discussion tonight, Mr. Rickster Ni Amafio, who is the Executive Director of the Blue Economy and Governance Consult. And also joining us via Zoom is Dr. Jemima Etonam Kasa, who is a fisheries scientist and aquaculture professional. She's also a lecturer at the Department of Biology Education at the University of Education, Winneba. We're going for a quick break. When we return, we'll continue the discussion. Please stay with us.
Guys, now I'm tired. I'll go on a date with whoever gets here first.
Princess, really? Okay, I come.
Shut up!
Boss, fill my tank with Super XP Raw 95.
Fill up with Super XP Raw 95 and Diesel XP high performance products from Goyle.
Sorry, Tony got here first, so I'm stepping with him.
Oh, cut him. Hey, go for mommy.
Choose Super XP Raw 95 and Diesel XP for an energizing driving experience. Always go for Goyle Super XP Raw 95. Goyle, good energy.
Goyle is good energy. Electricity, then pay your taxes. Yeah. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is, you still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Impressive factory. If only I had listened to you, I wouldn't have been in this mess. That devastating fire virtually wiped out the whole factory and my warehouse.
Remember my misfortunes last year? Serene Insurance Asset All Risk Fire policy that I took were there to pay for my damaged stocks in the warehouse. And my machines that were affected by the floods have been replaced. My accident vehicle is back on the road thanks to Serene Insurance Motor Policy. Currently, my goods are on the high seas, covered with their marine cargo insurance policy. I was just telling Ajima about Serene Insurance. Oh, Ajima, tell him more.
As a road contractor, I make sure I do my contractors all risk insurance for the project and then workers' compensation for all the workers on site. With Serene Insurance, they will make sure they will cover your unknown tomorrow today.
Serene Insurance, a new face of insurance.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
Business and life can be like the sea sometimes. Sometimes serene, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, and at times it brings the unexpected. However it is like, trust Phoenix Insurance for your home, car, business, and marine insurance needs. Call 0302 246 319 or 0243 690 492.
At Phoenix, you experience a delightful service delivered with wisdom.
You're welcome back. This is our report here on Metropolitan Television, and tonight we are taking a look at the regulatory and management regime of Ghana's fishery sector. And like I said, tonight we are in the studios with us is Mr. Richter Niyama Matthew, who is the Executive Director of the Blue Economy and Governance Consult, and also joining us via Zoom, Dr. Jemima Etonam Kasa. She's a fishery scientist and aquaculture professional and a lecturer at the Department of Biology Education, University of Education, Winnipeg. Doc, I said I was going to come to you, and when I come to you, I told you I wanted to tell us why you think there's so much craze about catfish now, rather than the tilapia that, you know, we used to be very, very crazy about. But I've been told that we can activate the phone lines for you to call in and contribute to the discussion. And the number to dial is quite different today. It's on the screen. It's not the regular number that we use. This one is 024583 4980. 024583 4980. You can call and contribute to the discussion. Yes, Doc. So why catfish now?
Okay, so the catfish craze has been quite recent, but it doesn't mean that catfish was not farmed in Ghana before. And let me just point out here that a lot of people get confused about what is mudfish and catfish. So let me just inject in here that what we are calling the catfish that people are grilling is a type of catfish we call Claria species.
Okay.
There's a closely related species also called Heterobranchus, and people farm these two as well as their hybrids. And so these are actually mudfishes. So if you say mudfish, we are talking about a type of catfish because we have a lot of different catfish species.
Right.
The perception is that catfishes are hardier and easier to, culture, whereas tilapias are a bit more sensitive. But people also have the erroneous impression that, as for catfish, because you can already find them in stagnant water or water with low dissolved oxygen levels, you don't really need to worry yourself much.
About
and you
feeding.
hear statements like,
they'll survive.
But tilapia, they are.
Yeah.
So people are looking for an easier way of culturing without implementing the right management practices.
Right.
But what happens is that if you just say because of that you are going into catfish farming, you will not get the maximum gains or results that you need, because if you follow laid down, tried and tested procedures and protocols, you are going to be very impressed at the end of your harvest cycle. I also think that the whole catfish thing the craze has gone up also because of our neighbors from some of our neighboring countries who have it as their delicacy.
For instance,
but
Nigeria.
There's a problem now. Yes, it's our Nigerian brothers and sisters who have it as their delicacy. And because we now have a lot of them living among us, they've also brought in that, and there's become we now have a heightened acquired taste.
Absolutely, yes.
For it.
Yes.
However, I want to say that a lot of people are rushing into the catfish business without prior advice, and so their expectations are very high. And what we are seeing now is that people have fish, but they don't have buyers. And we are always getting calls because the marketing has been poor. So we always say that before you embark on your small-scale aquaculture venture, don't just go in because everybody is doing it, but make sure you have the right training, your facility, is set up, organized, and that you have your market beforehand, before you even start production.
Right.
A lot also don't get in touch with, officials from the Fisheries Commission's demonstration farms or the Water Research Institute's various aquaculture centers dotted around the country. We have one in Akosombo. There's the PAC in Kunu Odumase. There's also one at Domahinko. And there's a Shaima demonstration farm. And there's also a new facility at Oyarifa. And there are also newer and then well-trained fisheries extension officers now. If we try to just watch what we see on YouTube and do our farming in isolation, you will not be happy. You will lose. You will so lose. So just because people are thinking, oh, we can do it, everyone is doing it, it doesn't mean you should also just hop on. But you need to get in touch with the right consultants who can, give you the best advice that will help you, carry out your management practices in a very good and sustainable way so that your activities are profitable at the end of the day. And then I want to go back to what Rishta was also saying, that there are so many opportunities. And even in the aquaculture sector, there are opportunities as well for value addition and export, especially to the European Union. Unfortunately, there are so many rules and regulations before you can even export, because you need to look at your farm records. How do you discharge your residue? How do you ensure that you are not using any foreign substances like antibiotics? What kinds of medications are you using? How often do you check your water quality? If you harvest your fish and you are done, what's your residue management plan? And then if you process the fish and you even want to smoke it for export, we have compounds we call polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons that are usually emitted when you burn, you burn fuel wood. There's now a lot of pressure on our mangroves because that is what traditionally has been used to smoke fish.
Yes.
So we are losing a lot of our mangrove cover, which is one. And then the old methods of fish smoking had very high levels of pHs being deposited in the fish and also putting the lives of the women processors at risk. Now, although there have been interventions at improving the smoking oven, so due to donor interventions, we now have what is known as the Ahuto oven. There's also the FTT oven, as well as a few gas ovens, such as the Abuesi oven. And when these are used to smoke fish, the pH levels are lower. But the fish processors also complain that, one, these setups are more expensive than the traditional ones that they are used to, and that the fish takes a much longer time to cure or get very smoked very well. And even if we are advocating for a move away from mangroves, we now told that research is showing that we can use neem or the cassia plant. Then it means that people may now jump and then go into cassia harvesting. And so we need to put measures in place for woodlots and afforestation and green forestry, among others.
Right.
So we don't just have to jump in, but we have to make sure that the regulations are there. We, the academics, are also carrying out research to give, reasonable advice, sound scientific advice. Right. However, we are also being hampered because very little value is being placed when it comes to research. Okay, so you have our research allowances being so minimal that we always have to rely on donor-funded projects, donor-funded grants, donor-funded interventions. And we all know that usually they would even dictate to you what to do. So I have a fantastic idea I want to carry out, and then there's a grant. But then it is, the terms of reference are in a box, such that you may not be able to work outside to tailor your research to actually fit what is on the ground.
Exactly.
So they come in, yes, there's the funding, but whatever we are researching on, how best can we also ensure that our results will work in this setting? Ghana does not even currently have a research vessel.
Yes.
And as Rista said, we were in the University of Rhode Island. I was there for an exchange semester, and they have a whole coastal resources center with 2 research vessels, one very big, well-equipped, sophisticated ship, and then a smaller retrofitted, converted trawl vessel, which is quite small, but which we, the students use. And this has been taking information on fisheries and various water quality parameters for over 50 years, non-stop. So they have data and information on various fish, their numbers, stock abundance. They are able to estimate whether, with time, the temperatures of the Narragansett Bay is going up. So there's so much information that scientists can just plug into, software packages and model. Over here, there's no research vessel.
Right.
And we are at the mercy of canoes and fishermen. You need to pay, go to the landing beach and say, please, can I board your boat for 1 week or 2 weeks to carry out my research? So we need a lot of attention when it comes to academia so that our research doesn't just sit on the shelf.
Right.
A lot is being done now because we are trying hard to communicate our research findings, for example, and this is a very good platform. But we feel that we are being left in the lurch and we are at the mercy of donor projects. That's as bluntly as I can put it.
Awesome. Thank you very much indeed, Doc. We'll still come to you. But let me come to the studios and find out from you. I told you I was going to find out from you whether you think that we are beginning to put things in place to do the right things, premised on the Fisheries and Aquaculture Minister's declaration or pronouncement that pretty shortly or very soon the EU is going to lift the yellow card from us.
Well, the key reason we had a yellow card was cycle, and cycle is completely off our system. So it means that we've done a number of things right.
Right.
Basically, the only outstanding issue has to do with the amendment of the law or rewriting of the law to ensure that the fisheries are properly managed. And like I said from the beginning, there are a number of factors to consider when you are rewriting the law. Are you writing a law that establishes a commission as per the Constitution and then do further regulations to deal with specific issues? And then you also need a very active Fisheries Commission board with structures, and you need to improve the structures and divisions of the commission to make them responsive to emerging issues within the fisheries sector.
Right.
And they need to be up to date. You cannot manage your fisheries sector without a research vessel. It's not possible.
No.
You cannot manage your fisheries sector without involving the science. So if you write your new law, how are you getting the science in there? How are you getting industry to be active actors in there? We live with a reality that you don't have Ghanaian entrepreneurs and Ghanaians with the requisite expertise in there. How are you putting in place processes for development? In the meantime, how are you dealing with the transition of foreigners who are in the industry? How are you writing the law to ensure that you don't just create a vacuum, but you have a proper transition through the process before Ghanaians are eventually able to take over? And a number of these things we need to look at it. Need to be looked at. You need to look at post-harvest issues. What happens with post-harvest? How are you managing it? How are you creating? Do we have to continue the way we do when you have women drying fish on the ground, the way they do in Tema, or that you would now have probably an auctioning system that will allow some system to buy the fish and then get it distributed so that the fishermen doesn't become poorer for their efforts.
Right.
So you need to look at post-harvest activities and properly capture them in law and fisheries management.
Right.
Then the issue of quality, water quality and fishing, between capture fisheries and aquaculture, probably, and mariculture, how are you dealing with it? Issues of closed season, closed areas. emerging issues of oil and gas activities, fiber optic cable, gas pipelines that we lay in our water bodies. How are you going to ensure that there's a leverage that allow the fisherman to operate without a challenge?
Right.
Currently, Rhode Island had issues with wind farms in the ocean, offshore wind farms, because they feel it will interrupt with their fishing activities, and they are being engaged.
Right.
They are fighting it out. We will be here now. We hear some company had conducted a seismic survey, and so they are beginning to do exploration. Yeah. And before we know, they are into full-time production. Yeah. There's an FPSO that have been sighted somewhere. What is the consideration in terms of fishing? Yeah. And so you have fishermen who go close to FPSOs, and you have Navy having tough time warding them off and all that, because that's where their livelihood are.
Yeah.
So basically, that is one issue we need to look at, the various interaction within the fishery sector. If you want to do aquaculture, it's not everybody that can go into aquaculture.
Yes.
Aquaculture may be only be able to produce for consumption, but it cannot be the absorber of the number of people who are into capture fisheries.
Yeah.
Because one person may have a farm and may employ only a few people to work on that farm.
Yeah.
It is not the same as 10 or 15 people sitting in one canoe and you have 10 canoes that go fishing. So aquaculture is an alternative, but it's not an alternative for employment of the fishermen that are coming out.
Yeah.
So if the fishermen are going to come out because it is no longer sufficient, what is the alternative livelihood arrangement?
Right.
How are you ensuring that they develop new skills early enough in life so that they don't have to go in there in 10, 20, 30 years before you say, well, it's no longer sustainable, let's take some of them out. And when we take them out, where do we put them?
Right.
That creates a security challenge for us as a people. So yes, it's important that we do some of these things and then we do it right.
Right.
But we need to have a clear plan as a country. Where are we now in terms of our fisheries management and regulation?
Right.
The ministry had done so much to get us to where we are now. We've taken out the key issues of cycle, but people in Elmina today are crying because that is a livelihood thing for a lot of people who are today not in employment. What was the transition plan when we're taking out the issue of cycle?
Yeah.
The law, the Fisheries Act talks about dumping, and there are penal measures for dumping. Now, if you don't give the fish out for consumption, you may have to probably dump them.
Right.
Which becomes the next palpable option. Because when you bring the fish onto the factory, they start going bad.
Right.
By the time you are done sorting out, what you don't have has no value.
Absolutely.
The law says fish that can be consumed, when you dump them, you commit an offense.
Yeah.
So if at that stage they may not be consumed, and I cannot freeze them because I cannot give them, I may have to dump them. What is the implication if people have to dump?
Right.
Have we also started to discuss that?
Okay.
So there is a lot of things we need to look at.
Yes.
Yes, we are going out of the yellow card because that is important for trade.
Right.
And for our relationship with the EU. But beyond that, what are we doing to ensure that those gaps that we've created in meeting all the EU requirements as a country, we are able to deal with it?
Okay.
And I think that is where we need to sit, both industry and the policy people, probably with science and research inclusive, to look at how to leverage our fisheries sector.
Great. Thank you very much. This one, there are a lot of messages that are coming through, but this one says, from Derek from Tema, he says, great discussion on Ghana's fisheries industry. I think government should do all it can to sustain the sector by giving support to lecturers who conduct research in the sector. I think that they should also begin by getting a dedicated vessel for research, which has been a long-standing issue up until now. Let me wrap up with Dr. Kasa by finding out from you, if you can tell us in 1 minute, why you think that we still import fish to meet our needs.
Well,
just in 1 minute,
so
we don't
quickly,
have time.
Yeah, we import fish because Ghana is highly dependent on fish as a cheap source of animal protein. Traditionally, fish is what we mostly use as our source of protein, and it's readily available and it's cheap. So we tend to consume more than we can actually make. And currently, we consume on the average per person around 21 kilos of fish per year, which is higher than the West African average of about 14 kilos. In some other countries, the per capita dependence on fish is just at about 10 kilos. So you see that their fisheries are not stressed.
Right.
So it's all boiling down to the fact that we prefer as a nation, we are a fish-eating nation. We eat more than we can bring.
Okay.
And then we are also exporting the high value ones, the very expensive ones we are exporting, but bringing in others to augment what we also take from our oceans. That's our problem.
Great. Awesome. Thank you very much indeed. Dr. Jemima Etonam Kasa, who is a fisheries scientist and aquaculture professional. She's also a lecturer at the Department of Biology Education, University of Education, Winnipeg. We thank you so much for obliging us this evening. It's been a wonderful discussion.
Pleasure.
And I know that we'll be reaching out to you as and when the need arises. So also say big thanks to Mr. Rixter Ni Amafio, Executive Director of the Blue Economic and Governance Consult. He's a big player as far as this particular industry is concerned. We don't have time to run all his all the things that he does here.
I'm just a fisherman.
This evening, he says he's a fisherman. Yes, we'll say a big thanks also to our sponsors: Ghana Revenue Authority, Wealth PLC, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, Meridian Port Services, MPS, and indeed Phoenix Insurance. Remember to watch the abridged version of the show on Ghana Television on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. And also, don't forget to keep watching the rest of our programs here. Remember, the show is live on social media, Ghana Port and Harbours Authority. That's Facebook, Port of Tema on Facebook, and on YouTube, Eye on Port Ghana. You can go there, and then you can, if you didn't catch the entire show. My name is Kennedy Mona. God willing, next week we shall bounce back with another wonderful edition of Eye on Port. We entreat you to keep watching the rest of our programs here on Metro TV and have a super week ahead. Good evening, and thanks for watching.
Metro TV, insightful and inspiring moments.